Now let's see the next letter in CRUD, which is read. I'll create another file here and save this as read. Since we are going to be needing some of the things here, I'll just grab the code from here and paste it here. We'll get rid of this, and here we say select query, and we're also going to get rid of all this. All right, now what we need to do is to say select, use the asterisk character to indicate that we want to select all the records from, then we specify the name of the table, in this case books. All right, the next thing we need to do now is to actually pass the select query to the PDO query method in order to retrieve all the records from the database. The PDO query method is going to return a PDO statement object. Therefore, we need to store that object in a variable. I'm going to create a variable here called statement equal to, make a reference to our connection object, and then say query, and then pass it the select query variable. What we now need to do is to use the while loop to loop through the result that is returned by the PDO query method. So we can say while we create a variable called role is equal to, we refer to that object statement, and then we use the PDO fetch method to say we want to get this result as an array, associative array, and the keys will be the name of the columns. This is the default method that PDO used to retrieve records from the database if we don't specify any specific method within our fetch method here. We're going to learn more about this much later in the course, but for now, let's just keep it basic. And in here, I'm going to say echo, just going to build a string. Now to get the name of this book, we need to reference the role array here and then give it the key that we want. This should be name. And then we also need the description. I'm going to say role description. And then finally, let's just put a break here. All right, so let's have a recap. First here, we are creating the query, and within our try block, we use the PDO query method to execute the query that we created before and then store the result in the variable called statement. So when we use the PDO query method, a PDO statement object will be returned. We can therefore use the while loop to actually iterate over the values returned in order to display them in the specific way that we want. Here we're just using the default fetch method. When we're using the default fetch method, an associative array will be created for us, and the keys will be the name of the columns returned from our query. All right, let's run this query in the browser and see. So this should be read. Here we see Introduction to Java, learn all about Java. Introduction to PHP, learn all about PHP, which corresponds to the two records that we have in the database. Like I said, we're going to learn more about the various options that we can use to fetch records from the database in a later lecture.